Greetings everyone, my name is Dominic and today you're tuning in to the Comic Book Report, where we review comic books and graphic novels so you can get an idea of what to read. And today I've prepared another Marvel Comics list video. We're going to be talking about 5 must-read Marvel Omnibus editions that no one is talking about, but are definitely worth reading. This is a small handful of omnibus editions I've collected over the years, and they really stay with me. I can't wait to jump in and talk about all of them, but before we do, I just want to shout out the channel sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com. If you're looking to pick up your own comic book collected editions, perhaps some of the books on this very video, I always encourage you to check out their website. You can find a link for this website in the video description. If you see anything there you like, you can actually use my discount code at checkout, TheComicBookReport, to save $2 off of your order. Please note if you use my affiliate link or code to make a purchase, I will earn a small commission, but it's still the best way to support this channel. Thank you so much for considering. Now let's get started with today's Marvel Comics list. Kicking off the list today in no particular order, we have the Fantastic Four by Matt Fraction Omnibus. This incredible omnibus edition collects runs of both Fantastic Four and FF, again written by Matt Fraction. These are companion runs that kind of run in tandem to each other. We have the Matt Fraction Fantastic Four title with art from Mark Bagley, and over on the FF or Future Foundation side, we have Matt Fraction paired with the incredible Mike and Laura Allred on art. As you'll see as I flip through this collection, the artistic style between these two companion series are very, very divergent and different, but it really serves this well, I think. This is such a unique omnibus, and I love that we have both runs going, again, kind of in tandem. We don't have all of Fantastic Four, then all of Future Foundation. No, we have kind of an issue-by-issue trade-off for the most part, and I think it really helps with the pacing of this book overall. There were moments I felt the Fantastic Four run was stronger. There were moments I felt the FF one was stronger, and the fact that we got both and we could alternate between those art styles, it just really worked for me. Bagley and the Allreds are admittedly some of my favorite comic book artists, and so the fact that we have them both essentially with Fantastic Four properties here, it just really was awesome. Now, I will try to go light on spoilers here, but I do want to set up the premises of both of these runs to see if this is a book that you might be interested in. Essentially, this run occurs after the incredible run on Fantastic Four by Jonathan Hickman. I think that's one of the reasons that this gets overlooked or maybe looked down upon, because I honestly think that this is kind of a hidden gem these days. Anything following Hickman's run was going to be having a lot to live up to, but I think that Fraction really paved his own way here. Essentially, Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, discovers that his Fantastic family might be dealing with a degenerative kind of disease or issue, and he doesn't see anything in the kind of charted or known universe that could provide a cure, so he comes up with a ploy inviting his family on a interdimensional, time and space bending family adventure for the summer, presumably, where he can take them out of their day-to-day and in his own mind search for a cure, but hopefully in the mind of his family, he kind of tries to set it up as a fun family trip. Of course, that does begin to unravel along the way. While they are gone, though, he sets up a kind of Fantastic Four substitute team where each member of the Fantastic Four picks a kind of understudy. We have Scott Lang's Ant-Man, we have Medusa, we have, there's a couple more, we have She-Hulk and one of Johnny Storm's girlfriends, and they all kind of make up this new Fantastic Four B-Squad while the main Fantastic Four is gone. They're also in charge of teaching the Future Foundation, which is the group of kind of burgeoning kid scientists, and that's really what we have in this run. It is fantastic and one I highly recommend. Next on this list is actually an omnibus I reviewed on the channel not that long ago. This is the Amazing Spider-Man Beyond omnibus from Marvel Comics, and wow, do I think that this is another kind of hidden gem or omnibus that not enough people are talking about, that again I think is worth reading. So this omnibus and this run takes place after the long-running Nick Spencer Amazing Spider-Man run, though I will say overall you don't really need to read that to enjoy this, and for all intents and purposes, I think that this is a kind of standalone run. There's a really unique setup for this, and I don't want to spoil too much, but again, like with Fantastic Four, I'm going to give just enough to provide the framework for the run so that you can evaluate if this is one you want to check out. Okay, here we go. Spider-Man Beyond is perhaps most noteworthy for bringing back into the fold the clone Spider-Man Ben Reilly. At the beginning of this book, we have both Peter Parker and Ben Reilly, twin Spider-Mans, basically saving the day. But after something kind of goes wrong with Peter, we have Ben Reilly stepping in as New York's main Spider-Man. Also with Miles Morales hanging out in the universe as Spider-Man as well, don't want to leave him out. But basically, Ben Reilly is taking the mantle back, but now he is funded by the mysterious Beyond Corporation, which kind of act as the voice in his ears, his handlers, as he enacts these kind of day-saving missions. Rather than just kind of being a free-roaming vigilante, he always reports back and lives with the Beyond Corporation, and as we go through this run, we find out that that corporation is perhaps not as benevolent or just as they may have hoped to be, and so that is really what we have across this omnibus. If you enjoy Ben Reilly, the clone Spider-Man, this was honestly a ton of fun for me. It gets mixed reviews, especially with how this run ends, but I still had a really grand adventure or two along the way. While I do not think that Nick Spencer was an absolute must-read to enjoy this book here, certainly the lead-in would help a little. I think what might be a little more important is having a foundational understanding of who Ben Reilly is. If you've read any of the 90s Clone Saga, or anything since then that has had Ben Reilly, again, it kind of serves to set up the foundation. If you never have, and you still are curious about this book, really all you need to know is that Ben Reilly is a clone of Spider-Man, and go. I really like this. Again, I feel like it's self-contained. It really, again, follows Ben Reilly as the primary Spider-Man. He has his battles with and for the Beyond Corporation, and we get to see him face off against some notable Spider-Man villains. We have, of course, Spider-Man's incredible supporting cast of characters, Aunt May, we have Mary Jane, Felicia Hardy's Black Cat, and of course a handful of notable villains. This is also written and illustrated by a huge array of different comic book creators, so it kind of feels like an kind of think tank or amalgamation of a lot of different talent, and the fact that we have such a cohesive vision during this era, I think is really impressive. I recommend Amazing Spider-Man Beyond. Next up is a book I'm really eager to talk about. This was released this last year, and I don't hear enough people discussing it. Honestly, I am still making my way through the back half of this omnibus, but I do plan to do a full spoiler-filled review on my channel upon completion, and a spoiler-free overview on the Organic Price Books YouTube channel, again once I finish it out. But I am aggressively making my way through this, and so far it is a ton of fun. Yes, we are talking about Thor by Cates and Klein. This is the Omnibus edition, and honestly, if you've never read Thor, this is not a terrible place to jump on. We do go right into the action, but I feel like Cates and team fill you in on what you need to know to enjoy this run. This also immediately follows the Jason era run on Thor, which itself was released in a 2-volume omnibus set. I really got turned on to this run because I'm a huge fan of Donny Cates' Venom. In fact, it was my book of the year, I think last year, that I had the chance to read. So I've been looking for more Donny Cates, particularly at Marvel. This is a run I had heard some about, but again, not enough. I know that unfortunately Donny Cates got into his accident before he was able to finish his run on this title, and we had some other people filling in and kind of stepping up to round out the back end of it. So I don't know that we got the full vision of Cates was hoping to do with Thor, but along the way we had so many fun adventures. I don't want to spoil too much, but to set the stage, again, this is post Jason Aaron Thor. So the Thor we have here is actually the king of Asgard, and the early parts of this run are basically him adjusting to that role and title in this new mantle of leadership. Along the way, we have him kind of coming into collision with characters like Galactus, a surprising appearance by Donald Blake, and so much more. Cates really does not disappoint with the twists and turns and just heavy action. I think that a lot of the stories as well are heavily character grounded in ways I found very, very pleasing. I think that this run is really well paced as well. I felt like every story arc was like an incredible blockbuster action thriller. The art throughout it is gorgeous to behold, as you've seen here. Thor is definitely a franchise marked by kind of the world building, immersive fantasy aspects, and I'm happy to say that that is on full display here. Not that we don't have appearances from kind of the Marvel heroes or Avengers Avengers, because we certainly do, but I think a lot of the storytelling here is kind of more on a grander scale into those fantastical landscapes I mentioned earlier, and that is really to the benefit of Thor. We also have some fun interstellar kind of space adventures for Thor, which is a sandbox I think Thor is absolutely at home in. Again, there's so much more I can say about this, especially once I complete it for the review, so if you're interested to see that, definitely stay tuned in the coming weeks and months on the channel, and I'm going to try to drop it. And hey, if you're enjoying this video and you've yet to subscribe to the channel, I would just like to invite you to do so. I'm always doing comic book lists, reviews, unboxings, and things like that. Anyway, thank you for considering. Now on with the show. Next up is a book I always look for an opportunity to speak to. That is, of course, X Factor by Peter David, Omnibus Volume 1. Now, this is Peter David's 90s run on X Factor, not to be confused when he came back during the House of M era, the X Factor Investigations era. That really picks up in the X Factor by Peter David Omnibus Volumes 2 through, I think, 4. I think 4 comes out later this year. But I wanted to talk about this book again because I believe it's getting reprinted soon, if I'm not mistaken, from Marvel. So people looking for an opportunity to pick this up for an imprint cost, definitely stay tuned for that. But this is a 90s comic gem that I'm so happy I came across. This is actually my first real exposure to Peter David as a writer, and to this day, it's one of my favorite runs from him. I have enjoyed what I've read of the later X Factor run, and I should say, you don't need to read this to enjoy the Volume 2 kind of X Factor Investigations era. However, there's some great foundational stuff that does pay off in subsequent volumes. But yeah, this is a 90s run. It is pretty self-contained as well. We have an incredible X-based team here with Havoc, Polaris, I think we have Rain we have Strong Guy, we have Quicksilver, and more. Honestly, this is such a fun and eclectic team. Oh gosh, Madrox the Multiple Man, of course, a huge character. But yeah, this is X Factor. They're a really unique X-Men team. A lot of times they're government funded and have to play with a lot of interesting political games, and we definitely see that a bit even in this run. But along the way, we have Peter David's flair for humor, intensive character-driven storytelling, a handful of action, and it's just a 90s series that absolutely works for me. I think the art style as well throughout most of this run is really eye-catching and gorgeous. This is at a time before we had a lot of the kind of more rounded, airbrush-looking, computer-assisted comic book art, which is not necessarily my favorite era. So this is kind of earlier 90s where it's still really hand-drawn and beautiful, at least in my mind. It also feels kind of inspired by a kind of manga flair in some ways. Some of the ways the action is choreographed or things are kind of just modeled, it really reminds me of a more Asian-inspired kind of visual art form. Maybe that's just my reading of it, but I definitely noticed what appear to be homages or stylistic nods to that, which, again, just kind of set it apart as a book at this time at Marvel Comics. I think for a book written in the 90s, this absolutely holds up today as well, at least for me. I thought the pacing was really strong, the characters were really interesting, and Peter David was really taking some chances here in a few novel ways. If you want to hear more of my discussion on that, again, I did do a full review on this omnibus once upon a time, but I thought that this was a great example of a book that more people need to be talking about. And again, because we might be getting a reprint coming up, I thought it was a great time to pull it out and speak to it a little bit, hoping to garner more audience for what I consider a really fun Marvel run. And rounding out our list today, lastly but not leastly, we have X-Men by Jonathan Hickman Omnibus from Marvel Comics. Now you might be thinking, of course people are talking about this. This is the Krakoa era, arguably one of the most dynamic and talked about periods in X history in the recent decades, and I would say, of course you are right. However, I think that this is an omnibus that a lot of people dislike or overlook because a lot of people wanted to see Krakoa mapped and collected in a way that we got all of the titles and you can kind of systematically go through it. I've seen other people complain that this should have had House of X Powers of 10 and maybe the X of Swords where they could in here, and I think all of these arguments are certainly valid. I think because of what is missing from this omnibus, a lot of people just kind of write this off as a useless omnibus, but here I am and I'm going to advocate for why I think that this is an overlooked Marvel omnibus that is still a ton of fun. I will say that though with the caveat that we are finally solicited to get a Dawn of X Dawn of Krakoa omnibus that collects it in a way I think a lot of collectors preferred it to be mapped. So maybe everyone is saving up for that omnibus, and I can completely appreciate and understand that. However, if you're looking for just Jonathan Hickman's snapshot of his X title, leaving out the bigger kind of events or crossovers like the aforementioned House of X Powers of 10 and X of Swords, and even Inferno by Jonathan Hickman, this is still a really fun book. And I believe you can still find it for pretty agreeable pricing because, again, a lot of people decided to pass on it. But yeah, this is really fun. So what I consider this, more than an X-Men book, I would almost call this the Tales of Krakoa omnibus, simply because that's what it feels like. What I feel like Jonathan Hickman did here, instead of having a big sprawling narrative or something that even focused on an X-Men crime-fighting team, what we got instead is really just these snapshot little short stories from different aspects or avenues of Krakoa, which again is an island nation of the mutants during this period. It was set up with a big maxi series called House of X Powers of 10, which I do consider a prerequisite read, but that basically deals with the foundation of this nation state for the mutants, and that's where this X-Men run is placed in. We follow a lot of your mainstay X-Men characters like Cyclops, Jean Grey, Wolverine, and more, but what we have in this are the X-Men going on geopolitical summits around the world. We have them having adventures on the island of Krakoa itself. We have some fun science fiction mysteries thrown in. Every issue follows a different cast of mutant-based characters for the most part. Some are maybe 1 to 3 issue little mini stories. Some are just kind of one-shot issues. But again, my feeling is more of a scatter shot of what is happening in the mutant community at the time, rather than a team of vigilante mutant characters are fighting off bad guys. It's just, hey, what are the mutants over here doing? What are the mutants over here doing? And there's a weird kind of action-packed but slice of life quality to that really sets apart this book in my collection as a really novel mutant reading experience. I think it's definitely worth picking up. Okay, and with that, that is my 5 must-read Marvel Omnibus editions that no one is talking about. Yes, these are maybe not your A+ reading experiences or your recommendations that are on everyone's list, but as a Marvel fan, if you're looking to pick up something just off the beaten path and still have a really enjoyable ride, all 5 of these books absolutely have my recommendation. I've reviewed a handful of them, and I think the one I haven't reviewed yet I plan to sometime in the future, so feel free to check out more extensive thoughts on these books from myself. I'll try to link the pertinent videos, but honestly, even creating this video for you guys today, it really reminded me how much I enjoyed each and every one of these runs. I know some of the picks might have been controversial, and I can respect that. I would love to see, though, today in the comments section, have you read any of these comic book runs? Are there Marvel Omnibus editions or Marvel Comics runs that you think are a bit underrated or you think more people should be talking about because you personally enjoy them? Let me hear all about that in that comment section. Let me hear what you think of this list video, or if there's any other comic book questions you got for me, lay it on me, and thank you so much for watching. Until next time, this has been the Comic Book Report. Please don't forget to leave your like, that comment we talked about, and maybe share this video with a friend. Thanks everyone, and have a good one.